Hey yo, it's me, Lucky Silverhand, Lucky Bastard. And in today's video I'm going to try to explain the term meta and what it means for us gamers. Specifically Elden Ring gamers, obviously. And not what it's going to mean for the next generation after Mark Zuckerberg claimed this term for his own. In gaming, the term meta usually refers to a generally by the community agreed upon most effective strategy, or most efficient way of playing the game or whatever. So for example, let's say a game gives you 3 different options to farm gold, and one of which is the most effective one that lets you farm the most gold in the shortest amount of time, then this would probably be called the gold farming meta in this game. Usually the term meta is also used as a prefix to other words, like for example in Elden Ring there's the word meta level. The meta level is the level that the community decided to be the best for PvP, not for PvE or any other matter, but for competitive PvP. So if you're not a competitive player and if you don't plan on playing in tournaments or like community organized ladder matches or something like that, then the meta level doesn't really mean anything to you. It is the level that PvP tournaments and events are going to be held at, so it's probably also going to be the level that has the most activity in PvP. If you search for duels, for example in the Colosseum, you're probably gonna find most of them at meta level or around meta level. And obviously the tournament players and ladder players are also going to use their meta level builds in casual PvP, just doing normal Colosseum duels or maybe even invading or stuff like that with their tournament legal 125 builds. So yeah, as I just said it, 125 is considered meta level in Elden Ring. So let's take a look at my first example, my 125 strength build. I'm saying first example because I'm going to make a couple more videos to this series, also showing a 125 dex, Int and Fth build. So now let's get into the details of what makes this strength build strong. So first of all, every good meta build needs 60 vigor. This is the base HP stat, which pushes your HP up to 1900 if you have 60. Next up we have endurance. Endurance is the stat for your stamina and also your carrying capacity. So you want at least 30 endurance in order to be able to carry some of those heavy strength weapons and also have the endurance to swing them a couple times. And also not be completely naked while doing that. Now your second most important stat after vigor is obviously going to be strength, our main damage stat on this build. And you should get it at least to the high 50s or maybe even up to 60 plus. The heaviest strength weapon, the Giant's Crusher, requires 60 strength exactly. I also opted for 18 dex because that makes me able to wield great bows, which are some of the strongest weapons in Elden Ring in my opinion. And I would not want to miss out on the great bow just to have a little bit more damage on my strength based weapons. The damage calculation in Elden Ring is shown in your stats in the top right here. It shows all 6 slots that you could possibly equip weapons into. And my first slot right now is the Great Sword, and it has the heavy affinity. This contributes to the weapon's scaling, which is shown below the attack power. The grade of the attribute scaling is going to show you how much damage your weapon will gain from leveling additional points into this specific stat. Every stat has diminishing returns though. That means the more you level up into a stat, the less you will get from leveling it. There are so-called soft caps, which are basically the highest you should push a stat before the diminishing returns really kick in and you don't get a lot from leveling it anymore. Now limiting yourself to 125 levels is basically what makes build making important. Let's look at some examples. In this first clip I'm using the Stone Club, which is a weapon with a very good strength scaling, and I'm using the Barbaric Roar to alter my R2. And this is what it becomes. It becomes a pretty brutal true combo of 3 hits. We finish it with the roll catch. Next up I'm using the Claymore, which is in my opinion a pretty good all-round weapon. You can pretty much use it on every build, and that's also what I'm doing. You will see it in every build video that I make. Next I'm using a Great Hammer, in this case the Anchor, 2 of them. And the one I'm using in my main hand also has the Barbaric Roar Ash of War, in order to get this brutal triple hit. But I don't really use it on this guy because he's just running away anyway. I could use it to trade with him. What I was about to say about build making, the point is that you need to sacrifice some stats in order to maximize other stats if you go for a build at meta level. Obviously more is always more, and you could max out every stat in theory and go up to max level, 99 all stats, which sums up to 713 in this game, because you also have some stats you start with. But that completely defeats the purpose of build making, and it basically makes everyone the same. So this guy, for example, he's casting some spells that require Int and Fth, so he seems to be kind of a hybrid build. But he forgot that your most important stat should be Vigor, and he ended up with barely above 1000 HP. Unfortunately, this seems to be a very common mistake for mages. I mean, okay, this guy had over 1700 HP, but I could still one-shot him. So it seems like he prioritized offense over defense. This guy with 2 spears is probably a dex build, and he also forgot to level some Vigor because he only has like 1200 plus HP. But now we're getting into a good territory, a Crab Shack Duelist. This guy is obviously solo hosting, so he's prioritizing PvP over anything. So he must have a good build, right? I'm seeing a bleed weapon, so I'm using the Star Fist with some bleed grease on it and the Endure Ash of War. Well, that was a quick GG. Back to a power stance lance setup. Another really important thing in Elden Ring is your Flask of Wondrous Physic. There are a lot of really interesting effects, like for example this one that lets you just negate magical or other elemental damage for 15 seconds. 15 seconds is not long, but it's long enough to just two-shot a mage, I guess, if their build is once again purely offensive focused. Next up we're going to see a very nice offensive use of the Barbaric Roar. Look at this, I'm staggering him with the Roar and then getting the combo in. Unfortunately this guy gets away. And he tries Waterfall Dance at me, which is Malenia's special weapon art, which is only on the hand of Malenia, which is a weapon that requires 48 dexterity, so this is obviously a dex build. I have a very competent teammate in this invasion, so all I need to do is finish this guy with a roll catch. And then it's a 2v1 situation for me, which is something extremely rare. What I threw there was an Albinoric Blood Ball. It's Elden Ring's version of the Hunter Charm. It prevents healing from the person who gets hit from it. And in this case, I didn't hit him, but it wasn't necessary anymore. He almost got my teammate with the hand of Malenia, but I just, well, finished him. And my teammate was super happy about it, I guess. Here we see one of the most brutal weapons in a ganking context, which is Moonveil. A katana that shoots a beam of light with a huge range and extreme speed. It's not that hard to dodge it in a 1v1 situation, but if you have multiple people running after you, it gets significantly harder. But they underestimated the force of the Zweihander in combination with the Waves of Darkness Ash of War. This is technically a 3v1, but it really doesn't look like it because I'm taking out those guys so fast, one by one. I'm roll catching this guy with a Claymore R2. And then he dies to some poison or something, it wasn't my fault even. And the next guy, I'm using the Star Fists again. And he falls very quickly as well, another mage. And now I'm just searching for the host for a second, thinking, okay, he's probably down there. Which he absolutely is. And it's another mage. And I'm just putting the bleed grease on my Star Fists again. using an Endure in order to just poise through his Moonveil and finish him off. And he once again had barely 1400 HP, but to be fair, Mage is a stat intensive build. In the next clip I'm fighting someone who's using 2 Thorn Whips. It's probably an arcane build. And basically I should use a faster weapon for this, but I'm just hoping that they will make a mistake, which they gladly do. And I catch them out of their Bloodhound stat. Twice. And now I'm once again throwing an Albinoric pot just to make sure that they don't heal back up. And that's already the finishing blow. The amount of damage this strength build is able to do in one hit is pretty amazing. Even though I'm not maxing out my strength stat, I could have like 66 strength, which would be basically equivalent to 99 if I'm two-handing the weapon, because you get a 1.5 multiplier for your strength stat for two-handing your weapon. I should mention that you can also get some bonus stats from your gear, like my helmet in this case is giving me 2 extra points in strength. And you could also wear some talismans for extra stats. In this clip I'm again having a 2v2. So my teammate and I each have our own opponent. And I'm handling this host while my teammate is taking care of his phantom. And my teammate is a little toxic here. He's celebrating the victory by throwing some poop at his opponent. But yeah, this is also a good moment to mention toxicity in general. I feel like on meta level you meet a lot of people who would do anything to win. And as a wise man once said that the most skillful players are not necessarily the biggest problem in PvP, it's more the most shameless players who are hardest to defeat. Like this guy, he's camping on this tower. And it's very hard to climb up a ladder when somebody's above there, and they could just do something to prevent you from reaching the top. But in this case my teammate is super brave and he went first and kinda, I guess, surprised the host because he didn't prevent him from getting up there. And now it's even both of us up there. We were lucky. The blues, who were previously summoned, already left this world because they don't want to support this guy camping on the tower, I guess. In this clip we see me using my Flask of Physic again. It has the Crimson Whirl bubble tier, which means that I'm going to again absorb magical or elemental damage for 15 seconds. And I can just stand inside of this magic and also the Rivers of Blood, which is mostly fire damage. And well, those 15 seconds can be enough to just finish someone. As you see here, if they once again focus exclusively on offense and forget that they also should care about their defensive capabilities. This guy is using the Stormhawk axe against me, which is a very strong weapon with a super strong Ash of War. You can easily get one-shot by this if you get comboed by the whole thing. But I'm throwing an Albinoric pot at him so he cannot replenish his FP. And now he's out of FP and he cannot do the Ash of War anymore. So yeah, I'm trading with him, using Endure, using the Star Fist with some blood grease on it to bleed him out quickly. And that's it. You should never rely on one single move to deal with all your opponents. There's a counter to everything. Here you see me using the Jar Cannon, which is a very nice range option for strength builds, aside from the Great Bow. And I'm using it to get this guy off this tower, because he otherwise could just camp this ladder below him. And I'm running in with the Jar Cannon. In this case maybe I should have swapped away a bit earlier. But yeah, the Power Stance Lances are just super quick. They have this extremely quick crouch attack, which I'm doing now. And they deal a lot of damage with this attack. And now this guy is just running away, trying to get on the ladder, but yeah, he's not fast enough. The next clip is a funny one. I'm seeing this guy with Hand of Malenia, which is, as we saw before, a very strong Ash of War with huge DPS potential. But as I said, there's a counter to everything. In the next clip we see two guys who seem to be dueling. At least the Phantom was bowing to me. And I can't really believe it, so I'm still very cautious, and I'm trying to preemptively hit him with an Albinoric pot so he cannot heal if he wants to. But then I get this really nice combo on him, and he has even a bit more than 2000 HP, and the host immediately betrays the duel. Guess it was just his friend trying to be honorable. Maybe because he was that high level, so that he thought that he could not lose a fight with a regular 125 invader. Here I used the Piercing Fang Ash of War on my Claymore, which is a very strong forward thrust. This next fight might look like a duel on first glance, but this guy was healing a ton before this happened. And he once again does not have a lot of HP to back his playstyle up, really. And we see that prioritizing offense does not really pay off on the long run, usually. That's the beauty of build making for a meta level. Well, this guy is pretty funny. He buffed himself and then he gestured. And now he just proceeds to spam his Ash of War, which is the Bloodhound Fang Ash of War. And well, that's pretty predictable. This is also a pretty funny one. You see the light behind the house? For just a second, he used the Mimic Veil, and that shines a pretty bright light around him. And so I knew that he was hiding there. It was just a matter of taking him out. And this Phantom was apparently doing all the work back there. Alright, so now I'm taking a little break from invasions and I'm trying the Colosseum duels. And at meta level 125 on PC, you would think that they are quite active, but in fact I'm fighting the same guy over and over in like 1 hour. I fought this guy like 7 times. And there's not really that much of variety of people you meet in there, because unfortunately on PC, those ladder players and tournament players, they very often use a mod called Seamless Co-op, which just provides a much more stable online environment. And with less latency, they just prefer, obviously, training for their tournaments, which are also mostly held in this particular mod. So yeah, you keep fighting the same guy over and over, finishing him in different styles. Then I fought this other guy. I also fought this guy 3 times in this 1 hour of playing in the Colosseum. And yeah, well, this is one of the reasons why I usually prefer invasions over Colosseum duels. Because I don't want to keep bullying the same people over and over. Okay, this guy's bowing, so that means he's probably skillful, right? Let's see what he's got. Well, I guess not, but at least he was honorable. Now this guy must be strong. He's half naked and he's fast rolling. If somebody's fighting in the Colosseum being half naked, this must mean they're exceptionally good, right? Or maybe they're just exceptionally brave for no real reason. If you're below 30% equip load, you get this light roll, which is just extremely long and takes them out of most of my roll catch ranges. But well, they cannot really attack, because as soon as they attack, I will just use this moment and attack them. Sometimes in the Colosseum, there's also very weird latency issues if you don't use this mod, the Seamless Co-op mod for this better netcode PvP. And you get fights like this where you hit someone and they get hit seconds after, or sometimes seem to not get hit at all. And now it's getting pretty extreme. He's running in place and I don't really know where he's at, and I'm just trying to get this last hit in. And apparently during this time where I couldn't see his moves, he was hitting me, and I just got lucky. This counted as a victory. Sometimes you still meet people in the Colosseum who do know what they're doing. In this case, it's a person who's using the arguably strongest weapon in the game right now, because it just has insane hyper armor on pretty much every move, and it also has one of the fastest crouch poke moves, which is one of the moves that was previously on Colossal swords, but then it got patched to be much slower, but not for this weapon. There's a few very questionable trades and moments where I didn't hit him, even though my sword definitely went through his body. But anyway, I was glad to find a good opponent in the Colosseum, for once. This next fight is a greatsword mirror. We're both having our greatswords out. This guy's having a bleed build though, and using Giant Hunt. This move he just threw me in the air with. But usually using a bleed build means that his hits are not going to deal as much damage. Instead he has this build-up of bleed and then this burst damage that might come out in the end of it. And this is a funny finish because we're kind of both taking each other out simultaneously, and it's a stalemate. The next guy starts the battle off by using Moke's Spear Ash of War, which is just a pretty big AoE that bleeds you and also deals some damage. But basically he's just playing on time. Like now he's casting those swarms of flies just to keep me away from him, just to have me dodge them for a while. I'm not giving him the satisfaction of getting hit by any of those. And when it comes to a close combat show off, he's not really shining with his skill. Maybe he was new to the Colosseum or something. The next guy is using Rivers of Blood, which used to be one of the strongest weapons in the early meta game, I guess. But nowadays it's pretty balanced, I would say. Okay, so enough Colosseum, let's get back to invasions. This time I'm again using the Zweihander with Waves of Darkness Ash of War. And I'm kinda ambushing this guy. And this is where I use the hyper armor of the Zweihander to just poise through his R1 with my R2. And then the Waves of Darkness. This next clip shows some guys who were just not leaving this spot near the Grace. I couldn't lure them down this hallway. They would only come there and spam their weapon arts and then run back. So I decided to, well, basically nuke them right where they were. This was the Black Flame Tornado Ash of War. Now we see another solo host who wants to duel. At least it seems like he wants to duel. So we're having a Colossus sword match. Except he's backing out of it, signalizing that he wants to stop, and then runs away. Okay, I guess I'm fine with it, because he's summoning some blues, and he lets me duel them. So let's see how the duel with this guy goes. Oops. Oops. I'm not missing. He's just not taking my damage. Where's all my damage? Oh, there it is. Well done, Mr. Blue, for having one of the worst connections I made in quite a while. But let's see if this other guy is less laggy. Oh, yes, he was. GG's. Now, back to the host. Time for our Colossal Sword match. I already mentioned earlier that the Colossal Sword has this very strong crouch poke attack, and it has been nerfed. but it's still pretty strong. Some people just keep spamming it over and over. Like that. Like that, yeah. This guy definitely has an idea of what to do with his Colossus sword. But well, he loses the poke off. And now it's time to show you one of my favorite weapons. The Great Bow. It's just one of the best weapons for invasions, you can't tell me otherwise. In situations like this, it only takes one shot to finish your invasion. And no matter if you're on a strength build or dex or int or faith or whatever, you need some range options. This guy fell to his death. This guy also fell to his death. But the reason why we are in such a weird spot is because up there is a mage hiding on this platform. And he's protecting this platform because the only way to get there is over those very narrow walls. And he also has some gravity magic to pull you off the wall. And here I'm taking the trade with his magic great bow in order to land one shot that threw him off the rock. Now I'm seeing that he did not land all the way down, he landed on this platform where I am. So I'm just swapping to the claymore and finishing him off. This was a very tedious process because this guy was camping there for a long time. But the great bow, definitely in my S tier. It's just one of the best weapons in general, for any build. Okay, well, and this already sums up my build showcase. It's already a pretty long video at this point anyway. I really hope you enjoyed it. So yeah, that's it from me, Lucky Bastard. Have a good one, see you next time.